we're pulling out the driveway. On the first leg, the back of the truck is completely full and packed. The cab of the truck is completely full and packed. But because my legs couldn't possibly travel like this is only the first leg for an hour, and then we're picking up a van and transferring everything into the van.
Let's hope all goes well with that. See?
I guess you didn't trim your ears, huh?
I trimmed everything. I trimmed my eyebrows, I trimmed my mustache, I trimmed my long flowing mane.
the long flowing mane. Here we are at the dealership that's supposed to have the passenger van that we've rented for the week to take all of this stuff with us. There does not appear to be a van anywhere waiting for us. So Richard's gone in to find out what's going on while I sit here and get more and more nervous. We've already had one problem this morning. My printer did not show up at his workplace with all the printing stuff that was supposed to be coming my way in order for this trip to happen successfully. So I'm worried that this is problem number 2 within an hour that has arisen. We are in the gorgeous rental van where there is much more room for everything. Plus we don't have to worry about if it rains. Plus disabled me is spread out on the back bench, beautifully set up with a table. Yes, I know it's all illegal. It's also illegal that somebody is driving without a driver's license. Would you like to comment on that?
I lost my driver's license. I don't know where.
How the van rental place went ahead and let us have the van knowing he was going to be the main driver, but using my driver's license, I don't know. Am I down for a secondary driver? And we're still not on the road just yet because now we are going to go try and make Richard legal with some kind of piece of paper from a service center where he might be a legal driver now. After a morning of a lot of different upsets with the printers and getting the van sorted and having had no driver's license and waiting for nearly an hour for Richard to go into a service in New Brunswick to get a driver's license, we are now at noon hour on a day that I got up at 5:30 to start this day where we were supposed to be getting on the road to go to Ontario. But anyway, because it's lunchtime, here we are at McDonald's. My legs are very comfortable stretched out as they have to be. I've got my 2 canes if I do need to hop out and go to the bathroom. This is also where I'm going to be sleeping tonight with some foam put down here. And Richard will have to be sleeping back here on the mattress in the back. Now we're only sleeping in the van on one night going to Ontario and on the way home. Well, a couple of hours down the road now, finally, and we're at one of these beautiful en route Québécois rest stops. These are, I think, among the nicest in all of Canada because they've been well planned out. They've been here since the 60s and 70s. They're beautifully done, and for a person like me who didn't used to be this disabled and used to even stop with horse trucks and horses and get them out for a bit of grazing, it brings back a lot of memories. Those of you who know me from my eventing days know that I would have been planning a couple of cross-country jumps. There's a lovely V down there in the cedar trees that I thought we could build a beautiful skinny in, called the V tree. And then of course this makes a fabulous cross-country jump if you did something on the other side where they could gallop on through. We've got the lovely post and rails. And then what a fabulous drop down. So jumping this, dropping way down, you lean back and you kick on for about 3 strides and you pop out over the other side. Or there could be an option maybe up that lovely slope there. I just love the way Quebec does these beautiful little brake stops. And Richard's, of course, in the back of our van now. There it is, having a good nap among the maple tree. The maple tree is actually starting to turn. We've seen quite a lot of turning trees here. And even though the weather forecast has been quite horrific for the next few days, it's supposed to be 30 to 35 degrees in Ontario. It's really very pleasant here. Not too many black flies like we usually have in New Brunswick, at least. And I'd say the temperature is probably only about 27 today. And I can no longer remember what that is in Fahrenheit for any Americans watching. After 2 days drive, we finally got to our destination for the whole week. Between my 2 appearances in Stratfordville Library and then several in Tillsonburg at Station Arts Centre. Finally got to this beautiful RV that we got completely unexpectedly, and I'll tell you more about that in a second, because Richard booked it with the host, Frankie. She and her husband, Johnny, yes, Frankie and Johnny, run this beautiful place, and it was a lovely little sanctuary back here. But the exciting thing for me was we are actually looking out here on all the fields in which I used to ride, and even though the highway is much busier than it was all those many decades ago, and the houses, probably only 1 of 3 were actually there, I still recognize all the tree lines, and the side roads are very similar. This is a very flat area. Of course, it used to be tobacco, as you can read about in Just a Stalemate, where all of this is set, which was the reason for the book tour here. But I'm so excited because these fields are where I used to go around the edge of Mr. Anderson, the farmer's fields. Usually it was corn here, not tobacco. But I had a very bad pony, you'll see more about that in a while, who used to just take the bit between his teeth and run away with me. And he actually dumped me on the very spot that I'm standing on once. I remember that. This is walking out towards the front of the property, towards the now very busy Highway 19. But nice to see that there's some cultural diversity happening here. Those were 2 very lovely lesbians living across the road in the house I used to well remember passing twice a day on the school bus. And beside us are a family of Mexican Mennonites. And then walking down the road here, the people who have just recently bought the property where I set Bamberg House in Just a Stalemate are from Portugal. This is the actual Bamberg House just across the road from where we stayed in an RV. And this is Richard behind the very pillars that are in the book. Wave, Richard. He's a gremlin himself, so it's good that he's waving. And these pillars were built by my grandfather in the 1950s on the estate. This house, of course, wasn't here. And these trees were all planted by my parents. The tennis court, the swimming pool were all over there. And that used to be the wrought iron fence from pillar up to pillar. And across the road was what is now the Cohen house, where my parents first lived when they were married, which still has the crabapple tree and the stone wall. But the road's too busy for us to go over there to see. This has become a bit of a Bible Belt here. There's a lot of churches, new churches, that have been built in the last 40 years since I've set foot around here. And perhaps related and perhaps not related, it is one of the reasons that I'm basing all the Tillsonburg appearances at Station Arts on diversity, trains for tolerance, acceptance. We're calling it building bridges, but based, on the train trestle that was right here, right within half a mile of where we're staying. We're now in Stratfordville, about 2 miles away from where we're staying. That's my best friend growing up, Kelly Everett Horvath. She will be presenting on Saturday. There's the school where a lot of us first started in kindergarten and went right to grade 8, where I started my very first acting and my very first writing. I was Marilla in my first role. Always have played crotchety old women ever since, too. And now I'm living the life of it. In my grandmother's time, this was what the village looked like. But now the only old thing left is that white rose sign, which I love. Just back down this street was where my grandmother started writing Just a Still Life, which is now set in New Brunswick. But there's the post office, where Grandma based her character PJ on the postmistress there. I transposed her to New Brunswick, to the fictional village of Victoria. And here is the new library. Originally, I used to go to the old library where I had the library card number 2. But this is the library that I will be making my appearance at tonight. And look, it's even on the sign. That was pretty exciting to see that, I must say. And we'll be playing games and the usual type of lingo and the usual discussions at the Stratfordville Library, who has done a great job doing promotions for this appearance, I must say. Really great job. They're the ones that made this flyer up and then made it into some posters as well. But we've also been putting other flyers up around. My sister and my mother did that for me back in July. So between the two, they've done a super job. It's also, of course, been on Rogers Cable TV and in some newspaper, on some radios. I've done some of that. They've done some of that, and Station Arts has done some of that. So it's been a combined effort to promote this. They did a lovely job making up a welcome sign for me. And while I have always had to bake cookies, usually themed, including Black Rose for our publishers, the Stratfordville Library was good enough to put out the goodies tonight. So thank you, Amanda and Carrie, for doing that. And then there's some of the games we'll be playing and some of the handouts that I like to hand out. And a little bit about the table that I'll be signing and selling books at after we play the games. And some of the display. This is a little tip for authors. If you can't hang your poster or banner on a wall, try just hanging it up with some S-hooks off a library cart. There's my grandmother, that picture to the left, the woman who started writing this particular manuscript 75 years ago, back in 1947. She was the original Ivan L. Johnson, because that's just my pen name, really. There's some more displays, mostly to do with Stratfordville, with my grandmother doing the writing, and how it's progressed over the 75 years, with me taking it on and rewriting it for 30 years, since I promised her on her deathbed that would happen. There's her original outline and part of her first few chapters. I always give out lots of bookmarks, and some of these are from the Cozy Mystery Book Club, which you can find on Twitter. They're fun to have. The library asked for registrations, which I'm going to ask all libraries to do this from now on. And thank you to Annette McElberg McGill for taking these photos for me. And a huge thank you to my friend Kelly Everett Horvath, who also grew up in this village of Stratfordville. She was a huge help to me that night with cleaning up and getting everything sorted and into bins again, packing up, so we could get the librarian Carrie out of there at 8 o'clock on time, while I was busy with signing and chit-chatting with people, some of whom I hadn't seen for 45 or 50 years. So it was just a really great experience to be back in the village where my grandmother started. Some of these characters, Philip Steele and his godmother, well, she wrote it as his Aunt Polly, but I made PJ his godmother way back in 1947 in the same village that all started.
Did anybody see my book trailer?